In the last episode, we saw Gully Foyle escape his captivity and make his way to Jisbella McQueen in the women's section to break her out of her cell. With a sledgehammer, Gully bludgeoned his way through an artificial wall in the prison. Finding themselves in the undeveloped caves of Gouffre Martel, they stumbled in total darkness through the sharp rocks of the caverns, across an underground glacier, until finally finding the underground river that might lead them to freedom. After a risky dive underwater of undetermined length that went under solid ice, they came out gasping for breath in pitch darkness. Climbing a bank, they found themselves amid huge stones that they were forced to traverse, diverting their path away from the river. They were truly lost and despaired of ever finding their way out. Then, as Gully was taking the brunt of Gisbella's anger and frustration at their predicament, he noticed that they were sitting on grass. They were already out, but it was nighttime, so they hadn't noticed. After spending the night sharing first their joy at this discovery and then their mutual passion, the dawn revealed them to each other's eyes for the first time, including Gully's tattooed face. We were then brought forward to a conversation between Gisbella and Harley Baker, MD, plastic surgeon to the underworld and keeper of living oddities, whether natural or artificial, in his museum in Trenton. Making it clear that Gully was not to be kept in Baker's museum, Gisbella negotiates for Baker to remove Gully's tattoos, but she refuses to pay the extra 1,000 for anesthesia, content with, or perhaps enjoying, the cruel idea that Gully would suffer through the painful operation. Meanwhile, Gully is still on the run, with a friend of Gisbella, Sam Quat, taking Gully around the jaunt circuit, staying ahead of the police. Will their plan work? Will Gully's face be returned to normal? Will they be recaptured and imprisoned? Find out in episode 7 of The Stars, My Destination by Alfred Bester. Baker's Freak Factory occupied a round brick 3-story building that had once been the roundhouse in a suburban railway yard before jaunting ended the need for suburban railroads. The ancient, ivy-covered roundhouse was alongside the Trenton rocket pits, and the rear windows looked out on the mouths of the pits, thrusting their anti-grav beams upward, and Baker's patients could amuse themselves watching the spaceships riding silently up and down the beams, their portholes blazing, recognition signals blinking, their hulls rippling with St. Elmo's fire as the atmosphere carried off the electrostatic charges built up in outer space. The basement floor of the factory contained Baker's zoo of anatomical curiosities, natural freaks, and monsters, bought and or abducted. Baker, like the rest of his world, was passionately devoted to these creatures and spent long hours with them, drinking in the spectacle of their distortions the way other men saturated themselves with the beauty of art. The middle floor of the roundhouse contained bedrooms for post-operative patients, laboratories, staff rooms, and kitchens. The top floor contained the operating theaters. In one of the latter, a small room usually used for retinal experiments, Baker was at work on Foyle's face. Under a harsh battery of lamps, he bent over the operating table, working meticulously with a small steel hammer and a platinum needle. Baker was following the pattern of the old tattooing on Foyle's face, searching out each minute scar in the skin and driving the needle into it. Foyle's head was gripped in a clamp, but his body was unstrapped. His muscles writhed at each tap of the hammer, but he never moved his body. He gripped the sides of the operating table.
Control. You wanted me to learn control, Bell. I'm practicing.
He winced.
Don't move.
I'm playing it for laughs.
You're doing all right, son.
Sam Quat was looking sick. She glanced sidelong at Gisbella's furious face.
What do you say, Belle?
He's learning.
Baker continued dipping and hammering the needle.
Listen, Sam. Bell told me you own a private ship. Crime pays, huh?
Yeah, crime pays. I got a little four-man job, twin jet, kind they call a Saturn weekender.
Why Saturn Weekender?
Because a weekend on Saturn would last 90 days. She can carry food and fuel for 3 months.
Just right for me.
Foyle writhed and controlled himself.
Sam, I want to rent your ship.
What for?
Something hot.
Legitimate? Then it's not for me, son. I've lost my nerve. Jaunting the circuit with you, one step ahead of the cops, showed me that. I've retired for keeps. All I want is peace.
I'll pay 50,000. Don't you want 50,000? You could spend Sundays counting it.
The needle hammered remorselessly. Foyle's body was twitching at each impact.
I already got 50,000. I got 10 times that in cash in a bank in Vienna.
Quat reached into her pocket and took out a ring of glittering radioactive keys.
Here's the key for the bank. This is the key to my place in Joburg. 20 rooms, 20 acres. This here's the key to my weekender in Montauk. You ain't tempting me, son. I quit while I was ahead. I'm jaunting back to Joburg and live happy for the rest of my life.
Let me have the weekender. You can sit safe in Joburg and collect
Collect when?
when I get back.
You want my ship on trust and a promise to pay?
A guarantee.
What guarantee?
It's a salvage job in the asteroids. Ship named Nomad.
What's on the Nomad? What makes the salvage pay off?
I don't know.
You're lying.
I don't know. But there has to be something valuable. Ask Bell.
Listen, I'm going to teach you something. We do business legitimate, see? We don't slash and scalp. We don't hold out. I know what's on your mind. You got something juicy, but you don't want to cut anybody else in on it. That's why you're begging for favors.
Foyle writhed under the needle, but, still gripped in the vice of his possession, was forced to repeat.
I don't know, Sam. Ask Bell.
If you've got an honest deal, make an honest proposition. Don't come prowling around like a damn tattooed tiger, figuring how to pounce. We're the only friends you got. Don't try to slash and scalp.
Quat was interrupted by an agonizing cry torn from Foyle's lips.
Don't move. When you twitch your face, I can't control the needle.
He looked hard and long at Jisbella. Her lips trembled. Suddenly she opened her purse and took out 2 500 banknotes. She dropped them alongside the beaker of acid.
We'll wait outside.
She fainted in the hall. Quat dragged her to a chair and found a nurse who revived her with aromatic ammonia. She began to cry so violently that Quat was frightened. She dismissed the nurse and hovered until the sobbing subsided.
What the hell has been going on? What was that money supposed to mean?
It was blood money.
For what?
I don't want to talk about it.
Are you all right? Anything I can do?
There was a long pause.
Are you going to make that deal with Gully?
Me? No. It sounds like 1,000 to 1 shot.
There has to be something valuable on Nomad. Otherwise, Dagenham wouldn't have hounded Gully.
I'm still not interested. What about you?
Me? Not interested either. I don't want any part of Gully Foyle again.
Can I go home now?
You've had a rough time, haven't you, Sam?
I think I died about 1,000 times nursemaiding that tiger around the circuit.
I'm sorry, Sam.
I had it coming to me after what I did to you when you were copped in Memphis.
Running out on me was only natural, Sam.
We always do what's natural. Only sometimes we shouldn't do it.
I know, Sam. I know.
And you spend the rest of your life trying to make up for it. I figure I'm lucky, Belle. I was able to square it tonight. Can I go home now?
Back to Joburg and the happy life?
Uh-huh.
Don't leave me alone yet, Sam. I'm ashamed of myself.
What for?
Cruelty to dumb animals.
What's that supposed to mean?
Never mind. Hang around a little. Tell me about the happy life. What's so happy about it?
Well, it's having everything you wanted when you were a kid. If you can have everything at 50 that you wanted when you were 15, you're happy. Now, when I was 15,
And Quat went on, describing the symbols, ambitions, and frustrations of her girlhood, which she was now satisfying, until Baker came out of the operating theater.
Finished?
Finished. After I put him under, I was able to work faster. They're bandaging his face now. He'll be out in a few minutes.
Weak?
Naturally.
How long before the bandages come off?
6 or 7 days.
His face'll be clean?
I thought you weren't interested in his face, dear. It ought to be clean. I don't think I missed a spot of pigment. You may admire my skill, Jisbella. Also, my sagacity. I'm going to back Foyle's salvage trip.
what? You taking 1,000-to-1 gamble, Baker? I thought you were smart.
I am. The pain was too much for him, and he talked under the anesthesia. There's 20 million in platinum bullion aboard the Nomad.
20 million?
Sam Quat's face darkened, and she turned on Jisbella. But she was furious too.
Don't look at me, Sam. I didn't know. He held out on me too. Swore he never knew why Dagenham was hounding him.
It was Dagenham who told him. He let that slip too.
I'll kill him. I'll tear him apart with my own 2 hands, and you won't find anything inside his carcass but black rot. He'll be a curio for your zoo, Baker. I wish to God I'd let you have him.
The door of the operating theater opened, and 2 orderlies wheeled out a trolley on which Foyle lay, twitching slightly. His entire head was one white globe of bandage.
Is he conscious?
I'll handle this. I'll talk to that son of a Foyle.
Foyle answered faintly through the mask of bandage. As Jisbella drew a furious breath for her onslaught, one wall of the hospital disappeared, and there was a clap of thunder that knocked them off their feet. The entire building rocked from repeated explosions, and through the gaps in the walls, uniformed soldiers began jaunting in from the streets outside, like rooks swooping into the gut of a battlefield.
Raid! Raid!
Christ Jesus!
Quat shook. The uniformed soldiers were swarming all over the building, shouting,
Foyle!
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 Baker disappeared with a pop. The attendants jaunted too, deserting the trolley on which Foyle waved his arms and legs feebly, making faint sounds.
It's a goddamn raid!
Quat shook Jisbella.
Go, girl, go!
We can't leave Foyle.
Wake up, girl, go!
We can't run out on him.
Jisbella seized the trolley and ran it down the corridor. Quat pounded alongside her. The roaring in the hospital grew louder.
Foyle!
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 Leave him, for God's sake! Let them have him. It's a lobotomy for us, girl, if they get us.
We can't run out on him.
They skidded around a corner into a shrieking mob of post-operative patients, birdmen with fluttering wings, mermaids dragging themselves along the floor like seals, hermaphrodites, giants, pygmies, two-headed twins, centaurs, and a mewling sphinx. They clawed at Jisbella and Quat in terror.
Get him off the trolley.
Quat yanked Foyle off the trolley. Foyle came to his feet and sagged. Jisbella took his arm, and between them, Sam and Bell hauled him through a door into a ward filled with Baker's temporal freaks, subjects with accelerated time sense, darting about the ward with the lightning rapidity of hummingbirds and emitting piercing bat-like squeals.
Jaunt him out, Sam.
After the way he tried to cross and scalp us?
We can't run out on him, Sam. You ought to know that by now. Jaunt him out. Keister's place.
Jisbella helped Quat haul Foyle to her shoulder. The temporal freaks seemed to fill the ward with shrieking streaks. The ward doors burst open. A dozen bolts from pneumatic guns whined through the ward, dropping the temporal patients in their gyrations. Quat was slammed back against a wall, dropping Foyle. A black and blue bruise appeared on her temple.
Get the hell out of here! I'm done!
Sam!
I'm done! Can't jaunt! Go, girl!
Trying to shake off the concussion that prevented her from jaunting, Quat straightened and charged forward, meeting the uniformed soldiers who poured into the ward. Jisbella took Foyle's arm and dragged him out the back of the ward through a pantry, a clinic, a laundry supply, and down flights of ancient stairs that buckled and threw up clouds of termite dust. They came into a victual cellar. Baker's Zoo had broken out of their cells into chaos and were raiding the cellar like bees glutting themselves with honey in an attacked hive. A Cyclops girl was cramming her mouth with handfuls of butter scooped from a tub. Her single eye above the bridge of her nose leered at them. Jisbella dragged Foyle through the victual cellar, found a bolted wooden door, and kicked it open. They stumbled down a flight of crumbling steps and found themselves in what once had been a coal cellar. The concussions and roarings overhead sounded deeper and hollow. A chute slot on one side of the cellar was barred with an iron door held by iron clamps. Jisbella placed Foyle's hands on the clamps. Together they opened them and climbed out of the cellar through the coal chute. They were outside the freak factory, huddled against the rear wall. Before them were the Trenton rocket pits, and as they gasped for breath, Bell saw a freighter come sliding down an anti-grav beam into a waiting pit. Its portholes blazed, and its recognition signals blinked like a lurid neon sign, illuminating the back wall of the hospital. A figure leapt from the roof of the hospital. It was Sam Quat, attempting a desperate flight. She sailed out into space, arms and legs flailing, trying to reach the upthrusting anti-grav beam of the nearest pit, which might catch her in mid-flight and cushion her fall. Her aim was perfect. 70 feet above ground, she dropped squarely into the shaft of the beam. It was not in operation. She fell and was smashed on the edge of the pit. Jisbella sobbed. Still automatically retaining her grip on Foyle's arm, she ran across the seamed concrete to Sam Quat's body. There she let go of Foyle and touched Quat's head tenderly. Her fingers were stained with blood. Foyle tore at the bandage before his eyes, working eye holes through the gauze. He muttered to himself, listening to Jisbella weep and hearing the shouts behind him from Baker's factory. His hands fumbled at Quat's body. Then he arose and tried to pull Jisbella up.
Got to go. Got to get out. They've seen us.
Jisbella never moved. Foyle mustered all his strength and pulled her upright.
Times Square. Jaunt Bell.
Uniformed figures appeared around them. Foyle shook Jisbella's arm and jaunted to Times Square, where masses of jaunters on the gigantic stage stared in amazement at the huge man with a white bandaged globe for a head. The stage was the size of 2 football fields. Foyle stared around dimly through the bandages. There was no sign of Jisbella, but she might be anywhere. He lifted his voice to a shout.
Montauk, Belle, Montauk, the folly stage.
Foyle jaunted with a last thrust of energy and a prayer. An icy nor'easter was blowing in from Block Island and sweeping brittle ice crystals across the stage on the site of a medieval ruin known as Fisher's Folly. There was another figure on the stage. Foyle tottered to it through the wind and the snow. It was Jisbella, looking frozen and lost.
Thank God. Thank God. Where does Sam keep her weekender?
He shook Jisbella's elbow.
Where does Sam keep her weekender?
Sam's dead.
Where does she keep that Saturn weekender?
She's retired, Sam is. She's not scared anymore.
Where's the ship, Belle?
In the yards down at the lighthouse.
Come on,
Where?
to Sam's ship.
Foyle thrust his big hand before Jisbella's eyes. A bunch of radiant keys lay in his palm.
I took her keys. Come on.
She gave them to you?
I took them off her body.
Ghoul. Ledger. Liar. Tiger. Ghoul. The walking cancer. Gully Foyle.
Nevertheless, she followed him through the snowstorm to Montauk Light. To 3 acrobats wearing powdered wigs, 4 flamboyant women carrying pythons, a child with golden curls and a cynical mouth, a professional duelist in medieval armor, and a man wearing a hollow glass leg in which goldfish swam, Saul Dagenham said,
All right, the operation's finished. Call off the rest and tell them to report back to Courier Headquarters.
The sideshow jaunted and disappeared. Regis Sheffield rubbed his eyes and asked,
What was that lunacy supposed to be, Dagenham?
Disturb your legal mind, eh? That was part of the cast of our FFCC operation. Fun, fantasy, confusion, and catastrophe.
Dagenham turned to Prestane and smiled his death's head smile.
I'll return your fee if you like.
You're not quitting.
No, I'm enjoying myself. I'll work for nothing. I've never tangled with a man of Foyle's caliber before. He's unique.
How?
I arranged for him to escape from Gouffre Martel. He escaped all right, but not my way. I tried to keep him out of police hands with confusion and catastrophe. He ducked the police, but not my way, his own way. I tried to keep him out of Central Intelligence's hands with fun and fantasy. He stayed clear. Again, his own way. I tried to detour him into a ship so he could make his try for Nomad. He wouldn't detour, but he got his ship. He's on his way out now.
You're following?
Naturally. But what was he doing in Baker's factory?
Plastic surgery? A new phase?
Not possible. Baker's good, but he can't do a plastic that quick. It was minor surgery. Foyle was on his feet with his head bandaged.
The tattoo.
Dagenham nodded, and the smile left his lips.
That's what's worrying me. You realize, Prestane, that if Baker removed the tattooing, we'll never recognize Foyle.
My dear Dagenham, his face won't be changed.
We've never seen his face. Only the mask.
I haven't met the man at all. What's the mask like?
Like a tiger. I was with Foyle for 2 long sessions. I ought to know his face by heart, but I don't. All I know is the tattooing.
Ridiculous.
No. Foyle has to be seen to be believed. However, it doesn't matter. He'll lead us out to Nomad. He'll lead us to your bullion and pyre, Prestane. I'm almost sorry it's all over, or nearly. As I said, I've been enjoying myself. He really is unique.
The Saturn Weekender was built like a pleasure yacht. It was ample for 4, spacious for 2, but not spacious enough for Foyle and Belle McQueen. Foyle slept in the main cabin. Belle kept to herself in the stateroom. On the 7th day out, Jisbella spoke to Foyle for the 2nd time.
Let's get those bandages off, Ghoul.
Foyle left the galley where he was sullenly heating coffee and kicked back to the bathroom. He floated in after Jisbella and wedged himself into the alcove before the wash basin mirror. Jisbella braced herself on the basin, opened an ether capsule, and began soaking and stripping the bandage off with hard, hating hands. The strips of gauze peeled slowly. Foyle was in agony of suspense.
Do you think Baker did the job?
No answer.
Could he have missed anywhere?
The stripping continued.
It stopped hurting 2 days ago.
No answer.
For God's sake, Belle, is it still war between us?
Jisbella's hand stopped. She looked at Foyle's bandaged face with hatred.
What do you think?
I asked you.
The answer is yes.
Why?
You'll never understand.
Make me understand.
Shut up.
If it's war, why'd you come with me?
To get what's coming to Sam and me.
Money?
Shut up.
You didn't have to. You could have trusted me.
Trusted you? You?
Jisbella laughed without mirth and recommenced the peeling. Foyle struck her hands away.
I'll do it myself.
She lashed him across his bandaged face.
You'll do what I tell you. Be still, Ghoul.
She continued unwinding the bandage. A strip came away, revealing Foyle's eyes. They stared at Jisbella, dark and brooding. The eyelids were clean. The bridge of the nose was clean. A strip came away from Foyle's chin. It was blue-black. Foyle, watching intently in the mirror, gasped.
He missed the chin. Baker goofed.
Shut up. That's beard.
The innermost strips came away quickly, revealing cheeks, mouth, and brow. The brow was clean. The cheeks under the eyes were clean. The rest was covered with a blue-black 7-day beard.
Shave.
Foyle ran water, soaked his face, rubbed in shave ointment, and washed the beard off. Then he leaned close to the mirror and inspected himself, unaware that Jisbella's head was close to his as she too stared into the mirror. Not a mark of tattooing remained. Both sighed.
It's clean. Clean. He did the job.
Suddenly he leaned further forward and inspected himself more closely. His face looked new to him, as new as it looked to Jisbella.
I'm changed. I don't remember looking like this. Did he do surgery on me too?
No. What's inside you changed it. That's the Ghoul you're seeing, along with the liar and the cheat.
For God's sake, lay off. Let me alone.
Ghoul.
Jisbella stared at Foyle's face with glowing eyes.
Liar. Cheat.
He took her shoulders and shoved her out into the companionway. She went sailing down into the main lounge, caught a guide bar, and spun herself around.
Ghoul, liar, cheat, ghoul, lecher, beast.
Foyle pursued her, seized her again, and shook her violently. Her red hair burst out of the clip that gathered it at the nape of her neck and floated out like a mermaid's tresses. The burning expression on her face transformed Foyle's anger into passion. He enveloped her and buried his new face in her breast.
Lecher, animal,
Oh, Belle.
the light.
Foyle reached out blindly toward the wall switches and pressed buttons, and the Saturn Weekender drove on toward the asteroids with darkened portholes. They floated together in the cabin, drowsing, murmuring, touching tenderly for hours.
Poor Gully. Poor darling Gully.
Not poor. Rich. Soon.
Yes, rich and empty. You've got nothing inside you, Gully dear. Nothing but hatred and revenge.
It's enough.
Enough for now. But later?
Later? That depends.
It depends on your inside, Gully. What you get hold of.
No. My future depends on what I get rid of.
Gully, why did you hold out on me at Gouffre Martel? Why didn't you tell me you knew there was a fortune aboard Nomad?
I couldn't.
Didn't you trust me?
It wasn't that. I couldn't help myself. That's what's inside me. What I have to get rid of.
Control again, eh, Gully? You're driven.
Yes, I'm driven. I can't learn control, Belle. I want to, but I can't.
Do you try?
I do, God knows. I do, but then something happens, and
And then you pounce like a tiger.
if I could carry you in my pocket, Belle, to warn me, stick a pin in me.
Nobody can do it for you, Gully. You have to learn yourself.
He digested that for a long moment.
Belle, about the money.
To hell with the money.
Can I hold you to that?
Oh, Gully.
Not that I'm trying to hold out on you. If it wasn't for Vorga, I'd give you all that you wanted. All. I'll give you every cent left over when I'm finished. But I'm scared, Belle. Vorga is tough. What with Prestane and Dagenham and that lawyer, Sheffield. I gotta hold on to every cent, Belle. I'm afraid if I let you take one credit, that could make the difference between Vorga and I.
Me.
He waited.
Well,
You're all possessed. Not just a part of you, but all of you. Yes, Gully, all of you. It's just your skin making love to me. The rest is feeding on Vorga.
End of episode 7.